Hello, welcome to the Old World Stat Center. I'm your host, Rob. Thanks very much. I'm going to start out by saying thank you very much for the really kind comments and all the thoughts that you left on the last video that I did last week. I know for a fact that Val also wants to join me for some of these in the future, which is very fun. And also thank you to everyone who shouted out that they're going to send pictures and videos and all those other elements when we do get round to doing them, which is cool. So this week and if you aren't aware and you didn't watch last week's video, this is where I look at the event results that happen all around the world. Something I do every single week for Age of Sigmar, so I'm going to try and do it every single week for also the Old World. Sometimes we might not have a lot of events, and this week, unless I missed it, and if I did, do let me know, we've only had one event, although that event was pretty large, and it took place in London and was called the LGT. I'm sure at this point you've already heard about it, or maybe you have. LGT has had an unfortunate history. It is mainly a 40k event with everything else being a subsidiary game. It's located in the middle of London, population of 10 million people, so I think it's a big draw for the people locally, although having been many times, it's not something I'd be overly interested in going to. Although, a special shout out to the tournament organizer for the Old World, because I know they tried really hard. To do a really good job. So shout out to them. Okay. So LGT, 64 people battling it out. We're going to talk about some things before we go and look at the list, because I think that's going to be really important, especially for people who are kind of casual and they maybe don't understand some elements of it. Last week, we talked about the fact that there is different scoring systems that are used at events. For instance, when I run an event, I run the win-loss-draw system. So whoever wins 5 games or goes 4-1, they're in those kind of brackets. That's how I call it. It's the bracket system. Pretty simple, pretty normal. The secondary, however, let's say I've got 2 people who've gone 5-0 at an event. How do I determine which one is first place? Actually, if I'm being honest, between you and me, I've always argued that if you ever just go 5-0, if you go undefeated, you should both get an award. There's no first place, but people like there to be a first place. We live in that sort of society. So what happens is I use the differential system, which is where the amount of points you beat your opponent by, if you only beat them by a little bit, it'll be 11-9, with the draw being 10-10. However, as you keep beating people, winning by more points, the difference gets bigger, all the way up to a 20-0 system. It's pretty popular and has existed for a long time, used in loads of different game systems. It gives you some granularity and to understand how games went. For instance, I may be playing, let's say I'm playing with my Chaos Dwarves and I win all my games 11-9. Then you're like, why was I not able to go 20-0? Maybe my army is more defensive than it is killy, as an example. That's probably something you're more likely to get from an army like that, because they also might kill all of my army. So it might be I trade off a little bit. Unlike the undead, as an example, who don't tend to give up a lot of points, so they normally have bigger differentials. Not all the time. That's just a rough example. So the reason I bring this up is because LGT did not use that scoring system. And instead, LGT used the system that you can find in the Old World Match Play Guide. Okay? In this system, there is a higher variance between the different points caps. With a draw, this is called the 6-0 system, with a draw being 3-3, and you need to win by 300 points, and then you need to win by 300 to 750 points for a marginal victory, and you get 4 points for that. Then you need to win between either 750 and 1,400 points for a 5-1, and you need to win by more than 1,400 points for it to be a 6-0. This is quite interesting, actually. So this is important to discuss, because what happens next, or what we're going to look at next, is the mission profile. This is important as well because I think, because LGT is such a large event, lots of people will be discussing elements of the LGT, specifically the armies that have done well. And it's important to note, we're going to talk about the fact that Cathay did really well. Cathay are really good, and definitely are too good. That's worth pointing out, or specific builds, or maybe not even specific builds. It's worth bringing this up because this VP differential was placed during the Match Play Guide. That's when it was created, versus the 20-0 system. And the Match Play Guide has you using different secondary objectives in addition to what you would normally see from just killing your opponent and scoring points. So so here you can see and again, lovely pack by the tier. I just want to point this out, by the way, that you've got Upon Field of Glory as the first mission, and then Domination as the secondary. Now, what's interesting about this is this actually crunches the available points for each player in what they're able to score, and therefore, if you end up with big blowouts, or even if you don't end up with big blowouts, because secondary sometimes can be win more, you have a smaller window of points to score. So if you do see a big blowout, it's because they killed their opponent. And what this means is you are more actively encouraged in the list writing phase to build Death Stars and also to build armies that kill your opponent really, really well or don't die. Those are the two things. And the army that can kill everything right now is Cathay, and the army that doesn't die as much is Undead. So you really benefit those. So the TO decided to only put one secondary in each of the missions. And there's apparently is an ongoing conversation, not from me, I thought this was settled. There's an ongoing conversation about how many secondaries should be in play. So to go back to an article I did right at the beginning of the summer when this came out, here is a sheet, and I'll include a link in the top comment, in the pinned comment below, to the potential points that are available on each mission, dependent on the objectives or secondary objectives that are available to you. You can see mission 1, Upon Field of Glory, here. If you're playing with the domination, which you are, there's 800 points available as long as you do domination correctly. And then if you have the baggage train, there's 350 points available, special features. And then if you do any of the objectives, I think it's objectives 3 or objectives 4 on mission 1. I can't remember which one is like in the match play guide. Then there's a lot of potential points available. What this means is that when you don't put in the secondaries, this is me advocating for doing all of the secondaries. What happens is you just go back to everything pre the match play guide, which is everyone kill everyone, which is fine. However, right now, and I like that system, by the way, everyone kill everyone is a fine system that I really like, and we can go back to that and use that forever. However, unfortunately, if you don't, if you just include, for instance, just the baggage train as an example, for 350 extra points, it's not really that big a deal, and it isn't really going to define your list or change how your list works. What I've seen at events is people building domination units, building baggage train smashing units, building baggage train capturing or holding units, and I think what's happened then is you end up with a more diverse and more complex list writing mechanic and a more complex game, but generally more fun. However, I can absolutely see why everyone just wants to put their models on the board and run in a straight line at each other. The problem is there's normally only one army that's good at doing that, or there's a best army. So I just wanted to point that out because I think that's absolutely worth bringing up. Also, shout out to the TO for also, again, beautiful pack, for bringing out some restrictions. Specifically, Sky Lanterns were restricted in this meta, and also Terrorgeists were also restricted in this meta as well. So there was some soft comp in this event, specifically on Cathay. So as we expect to go and look at the list, I'm assuming we're going to see, no, Cathay won the event. Now, I don't think the inclusion of a load of additional secondaries would potentially stop Cathay from doing well. That isn't the argument I'm trying to make. I'm saying that what happens normally in competitive wargaming, and I've covered this for a long time now, is you normally get a conversation about only what happens at the top in the army, and no one discusses the parameters or the environment in which armies do well. That is arguably more important, especially because, Malik, who is also an LGT winner in 40K as well, an incredibly good player, is playing. There's also people like Ben Harper, who's moving models around and having a good time, and he's Gwillem, who's also a great dude. He's just moving models around. And maybe Gwillem would find the game more exciting if there were baggage trains and other things to do on the tabletop and have more of a time. That's all I'm advocating for. And also understanding the convo. What's really important as well is people are going to think one way or the other. You're going to have an opinion, you're going to think some stuff, and you're going to leave those thoughts in the comments, and that's fine. And I'm going to read them, and we're going to have a chat about it. That's really healthy. It's also worth noting that I think one of the brilliant things about the old world is some events can run very few secondaries, some events can run 0, and some events can run loads, right? That variance is really good. However, my personal opinion, and not a statement of fact, is that with the changes that we saw to the match play guide and also the FAQ changes, I think more secondaries makes the game more not as they intended, makes the game more dynamic versus more singular, where when you go back to a pure kill point system, you end up with a game that's more singular, which is also fine. Like, sometimes you just want to put models down and smash, and I think that's great. Right, now we're going to look at the event results. And because of the 6-0 system, and because it wasn't win, loss, draw first, you've ended up with this weird situation where, shout out to Ross. Ross got 3 wins and 2 draws. I don't read those out. But what we do on the Stat Center is we go 5 O's and we go 4 1s. That's how we rank players doing well. So with that said, we're going to be talking about Malik, and shout out to Ross, Liz Love, who you're not mad at me. We're going to talk about Malik with his Cathay, Pasha with his Cathay, who got 4 and a loss. So Malik in my head is the best performing player, and then we got Cathay again with the 4-1, and then we also have High Elf Realms with the 4-1, and I think that's where we stop. So we're going to have a look at those lists right now. Okay, so because shout out to all the people in the chat who really want me to bring this conversation to the fore. In the pack, what happens is a draw is considered to be half a win. Okay, it's just an asinine old school system that doesn't really make any sense. I don't consider a draw to be half a win. I consider a draw to be a draw. Therefore, I only really track wins and losses. Now, obviously, in Malik's case, he got 4 wins and a draw, the best performing result. However, Ross, who's got 3 wins and 2 draws, I don't think should ever come above someone who gets 4 wins and a loss. I personally think it's harder to get a win, especially in a 300-point format. So that is how I personally process event results, and I've always done that, and I always do it that way, and I've never done it a different way because you end up in this weird situation. Again, Ross, love to you. I really hope you don't feel personally upset by this. I'm trying to talk about the system, not your place in the system. You did great. You should feel super proud of yourself. Everyone who attended should feel proud of themselves. Okay, so with that said, that puts us in an interesting place when we actually look at the results. Cathay end up in my brain as 1, 2, and 3. Because they are they're in the 4-1, 4 and a draw, and then 2 4-1s. So you got Malik, you have Pash, and you have Brian Carmichael, all in the 4-1. And then our only other 4-1 that we have is Jack with High Elf Realms. So any conversation around undead, so Vamp Counts and Mort Cult, shout out to Pip, love you Pip, doing well is just not true. They drew. So like they're not in this convo. So actually Cathay are way worse than maybe other people are discussing, because in my mind they're in place 1, 2, and 3. And in 4th place we've got ourselves some High Elves. So taking a look at the list, we can see that Malik, and again, it's worth pointing out that that Malik, Pash, and also Brian Carmichael, Malik's case specifically, he has been a proven wargamer at the high end, competitive 40K, won the LGT maybe 3-4 years ago, 1,800 person event. I'm not really sure. I think it was 11 rounds in order to win. When I say the man is great at Warhammer, I'm not beating around the bush. He's an incredible wargamer. Now, sure, Cathay might be really good, but he's the best performing Cathay player at the event. He's also the best performing player. So he's also really, really good. I think that's worth pointing out. So he was running a Shogungan Lord, a level 4 with a Lori Yang, and he's taking the Scroll of Wenji, the Monkey King's Wisdom, and then a Lord Magistrate that's on a balloon with Iron Hail Guns, obviously, and then the Crystal of Kunlan, the Alchemist Mask, and the Armor of Meteoric Iron. Then you got a Strategist with a Sky Lantern, and then the Dragonfire Bombs and the Jade Armor of Bachai. Then you got 18 Jade Warriors, 5 Jade Lancers, 5 Jade Lancers, and then 3 Cannons, all with Ogre Loaders. So what's interesting about this build is it doesn't need to go anywhere. And it's also worth pointing out that the missions don't really mean, because there's no real objectives in the game, you don't really need to go anywhere anyway. That doesn't mean that Malik wasn't playing very aggro, and it's not that balloons can't be really fast and go somewhere really fast, but he didn't need to because the missions didn't force him to. So that's worth pointing out as well. And we're going to go through the other 3 lists before we kind of talk about them in general. Pasha was running Lord Magistrate, also on a Sky Lantern with Iron Hail Guns, Dragonfire Bombs, Sword of Striking, Jade Armor, and Alchemist Mask. And then you had the Shogungan General with a level 1 Wizard with Lori Yang, a Shogungan General, a level 1 Wizard with Lori Yang, and the Brazen Blade. The first one had the Morshar. Then you had a Strategist, again on a balloon. I'm pretty certain on a balloon with, I mean, the format is terrible, with an Armor of Meteoric Iron, then Talisman of Protection. Then you had 5 Jade Lancers, 5 Jade Lancers. Then you had 12 Jade Warriors. And then you had 2 Grand Cannons, with Ogre Loaders. And you had a 3rd balloon in the list as well. So again, an army that doesn't really need to go anywhere. Also, great names from Pasha. We've got General Bao Lun, Chairman Miao, Genghis Khan, Ming the Inflatable. So some great lists. And then, if we go and look at Brian Carmichael's list, he's got a Shogungan Lord with the Monkey King's Wisdom, running Battle Magic, level 2 Wizard with Laura Yang. Then a Lord Magistrate on a Sky Lantern with a Ring of Jet and the Talisman of Protection. Then a Strategist with the Ring of Jet, and then another Strategist with a Ring of Jet. Then we have a 22 Jade Warriors with a Charm Shield and the Icon of Heavenly Fury, 5 Jade Lancers with a Ring of Jet, 5 Jade Lancers with a Ring of Jet, 5 more Jade Lancers with a Ring of Jet, 5 more Jade Lancers with a Ring of Jet, 5 more Jade Lancers with a Ring of Jet, and then a Sky Lantern. I don't know if you noticed something very specific there, but let's talk about it. Okay, so you would have seen me commonly read out the Ring of Jet on this list run by Brian. So Ring of Jet, let's talk about it, shall we? Ring of Jet is a common magic item that came out in the latest Arcane Journal. This is obviously something that was going to be spammed if the community let it be spammed. It's only 30 points and it's got a power level of 2 because it allows you to cast Unquiet Spirits from the Law of Necromancy. So power level 2 means it's as good as a level 4 caster in casting spells, which means this 8+ to cast, meaning I need 6 on the dice at 15 inches, is 3d6 strength 2 hits with no armor saves permitted. Ward and regen saves can be made. So this is a spammed common magic item that casts as well, which makes a champion of a unit of Jade Lancers as good as a level 4 wizard. That's what it does. And again, this is all raw kill output. That's what it does. It just does kills, right? And it's outrageous. So obviously that needs to be FAQ'd and brought down a peg. It needs to be power level 1 for a start. Probably could also do with not being a very common magic item. Seems a bit silly to have it anyway, so let's not do that. So I think that's a really easy fix for that. As for Cathay as a whole, because that's the real thing we need to talk about, the thing we need to talk about is first, second, and third, the 4-1 section of the bracket is full of one army, with the exception of High Elves, which we'll talk about in a moment. What needs to be done about it? That's a great question. Maybe I should cover that in another show, or we should break it down in some more detail. I think one of the other things is also worth talking about as well is, because I've been doing this for such a long time, conversations like this end up dominating the chat too much. There are loads of people at this event who had a great time. Loads of people. Oh, well, it's kind of like that. Even when dragons were running around and defeating people pretty much at will, people were having a good time. People put more attachment to larger events for no real reason. I don't know why, but they just do. But so something to just be conscious of is, like, if you feel this conversation is being constructive or is not helping you enjoy your hobby, you should ignore or move away from the conversation. There are people who just love to argue the color of the sky. And while we can recognize Cathay are doing really well, and they are arguably too good, right? Way too good. You don't need to involve yourself in that conversation anymore if it's going to affect your hobby. Your hobby is meant to be fun, okay? And something being done about Cathay, hopefully by the game designers, is really positive. And if not, the community can just bring some sort of balance to it in some sort of way. But I just wanted to bring that up because for some reason, and sometimes the conversation doesn't become very mature. And I would like to see that from the audience. We're new as a tournament game. I'm going to talk about that more. Maybe in a conversation with Val. I was going to maybe kind of put my 10 cents here, but I'll do it in the future. I think that makes more sense to have a discussion about it versus just telling you what I think, even though years of experience. Anyway, right, the shout out other 4-1, Jack with his High Elves. Jack was running a Prince on a Star Dragon with the Armor of Calidor, the Opal Amulet, and the Seed of Rebirth and Pure Heart. And then we have another Prince, this time in full plate armor, shield, who's the general on a Lothan Skycutter with a Seed of Rebirth and Talisman of Protection. Then we have a Stormweaver that was a level 3 wizard with Law Familiar and Elementalism, 20 Seed Lothern Guard, 15 Elven Archers. And then we have Lothan Skycutter, and 7 Sisters of Avalon, and 2 Grey Eagles. This definitely feels like it's got like more elements than we saw from some of the Cathayan list. But again, the Cathayan list has a very limited roster. So I'm not surprised. I like the Great Eagles. I especially like things like Great Eagles for domination. I think they're vibes, like either redirectors or domination. I think Chaff is in an interesting place when you're actually playing with all objectives now, because are you saving them? Are you using them to like bait charges on objectives so you can hit their units with hammers? Are you trying to smash, like do domination, have these little units run around? It's also worth pointing out, with the exception of, if you look here, we've got 27 Lothern Guard, one big brick, pretty good when there aren't a lot of objectives to go around and grab. Not a lot of core in here. Brian's list does have a big brick, one. And then beyond that, doesn't have a lot of... I mean, actually, all the Jade Lancers are also core, but you kill one, and are they then not unit strength 10? I don't think they are. Pash's list has got no infantry unit? 12 Jade Warriors, one small unit of 12 Jade Warriors. Malik's list has also got one small unit of, an 18 unit of Jade Warriors. This is interesting if you think about it, and again, referenced in the pack, because... the match play guide and especially sword and board units are more impactful when there are more objectives. If you have less objectives, you have less of those units, which I think is kind of, again, interesting. Ultimately, the direction of the Old World as a competitive game and the direction of Old World as gaming can probably split. Or not even split, but they don't have to necessarily be concurrent with each other. If you're playing at home, I really encourage you to play a baggage train every single time. It's funny when a unit of Ungor pop up or a unit of miners pop up and they smash someone's baggage train. It's fun, and I don't know why you're not trying to have fun playing the Old World. As a competitive game, it's quite interesting because I don't think necessarily we're going to see the level of balance and support that you're going to need from Games Workshop in order to bring maybe some egregious armies to bear. So it'll be interesting to see where this future takes us as we go through. However, I'm sure there were many people at the LGT who had an amazing time regardless of results, and also a special congratulations to all the players who did well with those results. Hopefully I'll be back next week, and if there's anything you got any thoughts on this, please do let me know in the comments. I am bringing a lot of experience and maybe also a lot of ideas that have been settled, like dusty settled in time. And I was reminded by the chat about some instances that the 4-1 and 5-0 thing, I forgot was in a hotly debated conversation many years ago, specifically because someone was trying to manipulate looking at the top 5 or the top 7 or the top 10 to try to make the game seem better than it was, because Games Workshop, because they worked for Games Workshop, basically. So I'd forgotten about that and why we were very vehement on always doing 5-0s and 4-1s, because that way we really kind of understood brackets. I also think it's a worthy achievement. It's a good goal. But playing a game is also a good goal as well. I hope you've enjoyed the stat show. We probably need to do a big show about Cathay in general. And maybe how we would fix it. I think that would be a fun video to go through. And also, we've got loads of stuff coming out this week as well. There's new book, so loads of new armies. So I hope you enjoyed that. Thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I'll see you soon.